You're watching Sports World, have your say. One story in town today. Andre Villas-Boas has been sacked by Chelsea after just 257 days as manager. The club issued a statement on their website earlier on Sunday saying the results and performances were just not good enough and showing no signs of improvement. They were beaten 1-0 by West Brom yesterday and sit fifth in the English Premier League table after winning just 3 of their last 12 games. I've got Michael Johnson with me here in London in the studio. Let's welcome Steve to the conversation, a regular friend of the programme from New York. I think we've got a little problem with him, I'm afraid. Michael, let's get your reaction firstly to the news today.
Well, I think it's an interesting one. It was always going to be on the cards. You know, he had to get results. You know, they had to be in the top 4. They wanted silverware. But he's been given this project, so to speak, you know, to get some of the older statesmen out of the club, which is difficult. You know, he's upsetting the likes of Lampard, Terry, and that's always going to cause problems in the changing room.
OK, well, let's welcome Andy to the programme, a Chelsea fan who's picked up the phone, given us a call on the usual number, +44 2070 83 73 33. Andy, what did you make of it today?
It wasn't really a surprise because, I mean, with all the talk in the media over the last few weeks, it was like it was going to happen very, very soon. And to be honest with you, I'm quite glad it's happened now rather than, say, in 2 or 3 weeks' time when Arsenal could have gone even further ahead of us and we'd lost points potentially in the next couple of weeks. So if it was going to happen, I'm really glad it's happened now so we can sort of move on and try and gain a bit more confidence within the team, because that's been a massive issue over the last few weeks, the confidence. You can see that the team is just not playing with any confidence whatsoever, no fluidity, nothing at all. So, I mean, I do feel for Villas-Boas because it's a massive task to taking on this challenge. I mean, he's very, very new to management as well. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe it is for the best at this moment in time. Yeah.
Well, let's welcome Steve to the programme. I think he does join us now from New York. Why now, do you think, Steve?
I feel that the game against West Brom was one of those games that as an elite club, you have to win, and they just didn't do that. And like the last person said, I think it's better to part ways now. I mean, the season is pretty much a lost cause at this point. So it's better to regroup and plan for next season. So that way next season, people will discuss whether or not Chelsea can still win the title instead of can they still even qualify for the Champions League.
Well, there's certainly been a mixed response from people sending their messages to us on Facebook and Twitter today. Timothy Mitchell has tweeted, definitely the wrong decision. Should get rid of the old deadwood on the dressing room. Might be cheaper. Stuart Cole, too, has tweeted, about time. My 9-year-old to the Chelsea nut is dancing round the room. Linda Makin says about time too. She sent us a message on Facebook. A manager's job is to manage in any context whatsoever, and that means managing people, something AVB was clearly not up to, either through inexperience or incompetence. Let's just remind ourselves of the Chelsea statement, though, that they issued today on their website. It says the board would like to record our gratitude for his work and express our disappointment that the relationship has ended so early. Unfortunately, the results and performances of the team have not been good enough and we're showing no signs of improving at a key time in the season. With that in mind, we felt our only option was to make a change at this time. Let's welcome Ben to the programme, who's given us a call from Massachusetts. Ben, what's your reaction?
You know, my first reaction was one of disappointment. I'm obviously disappointed that we aren't going to have any sort of stability here for Chelsea, but I think in the end it might have been the right move. I don't think that AVB went about this project, as he called it so often, the right way. And I think for the task that was set before him, he really needed the support of all the more senior players, the John Terrys, the Frank Lampards, the Drogbas, the Essiens, all of them. And I don't think he had that. And without that, it was always going to be a very difficult job for him to try and turn it around. And the results speak for themselves. He was in charge for 40 games. There was 20 wins, 10 draws, and 10 losses, and that's the worst mark through 40 games of any of of Carlo Ancelotti, of Mourinho, of any of the most recent Chelsea managers.
It's a great point you make, Ben, but do you not think that the board might have something to do with this project? They might have said to AVB, look, this is what you need to do for the season to get rid of some of our senior statesmen, and now he's the one who's obviously left holding the can.
Sorry?
I was just saying to you, I wanted to know your opinion on, do you not think the project, what AVB's been given, that was obviously told to him by the board, by the owners of the football club, and now AVB's the one who's left holding the can. He's left holding the problem, and everybody's pointing the finger at him. So maybe sometimes we might have to look at the board. What do you think about that?
I think this is a case where you have people that are running a football club who don't really know football all that well.
Yeah.
I think that the board can shoulder some amount of blame in this.
Absolutely.
I thought it was an interesting decision when they brought in someone as young as AVB for the project, especially with those senior players that he was never able to really unify and get on his side.
Steve, do you agree?
That way, it doesn't project. It sounds more of an experiment. To get the respect of a coach from the players who are older than him. It can't be the easiest thing in the world to do, especially when you're working with, a football club with the stature of Chelsea. You look at any top club, you look at Man U. If they bring in a coach who's younger than, say, Scholes, Ferdinand, it's going to be tough for those players to gain the manager's respect. So I think in that way, it sounds more of an experiment. And now Chelsea's learned maybe you do really need to find a manager with the right experience.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. Adebayo's tweeted the same thing. Says, well, his age really put him under immense pressure with the Chelsea senior players. Michael, how much do you think age is a factor and in terms of his the reaction from the Chelsea dressing room?
Well, in that particular club, Chelsea, it's a massive club, and you need somebody to come in there and hit the ground running. They've got to be experienced, know how to win games, and know how to manage so many senior players. And, if you've not got them senior players on your side, you're in problems. Usually when the manager goes in, he needs to get them working with him, not against him.
Chelsea said in their statement it was the only option. Do you think that was the case?
I wouldn't have said it's the only option. You look at what's happened with Arsene Wenger, and they've stuck by him, and he's now turned. Well, it looks like he's turning the corner with a couple of great wins. And I'd have liked to have seen him given more time, but I understand that Chelsea, they need to be up there challenging and winning silverware, and unfortunately, he's the one who's obviously leading the ship.
Well, an agent, Simon Oliveira, has tweeted today, as has many people. He says, disappointed with AVB sacking today, a good man who needs time to rebuild a team. Chelsea too trigger happy when patience is needed. Let's welcome Tayo to the conversation, actually a Liverpool fan who joins us here in London. Do you think they could have done with a little bit more patience?
I think it's a really interesting situation. Like the previous callers have said, he didn't have the best win record. I think it was 50% of the games he won. So I think Arsenal, they beat us yesterday, so they seem to be on the up. So there was a bit of a danger of them not finishing top four.
Yeah, it's interesting actually what you say there about the win ratio. I've got a table here of results of how Chelsea managers have fared under Roman Abramovich. Because hitting the most successful, he won 73% of his matches. Andre Villas-Boas is at the bottom of the list of the managers under Abramovich. He's won just 48%. But Michael, he came in at a difficult time, and it was about the project, and somebody needs to change things at Chelsea.
Yeah, but if they give him a project, surely they've got to give him an amount of time and say to him, look, you've got a 2-year window to get this right. You know, you're dealing with players, the renowned through the world football. You know, the likes of Terry, the likes of Lampard. You can't just, Drogba's another one, and Elka, you can't just move them out in 7 months and expect him to win silverware. They've got to give him the time. And that's why I look a bit more beyond than just looking at AVB and say, hold on, there's somebody else here who could be looked at.
Well, Michael Cox, who runs a football website called Zonal Marking, has tweeted AVB's first 40 games for Chelsea, won 20, drawn 10, lost 10. Mancini's first 40 games for City, won 20, drawn 9, lost 11. Steve, he hasn't done that badly. Still in the FA Cup, still in the Champions League, still in the hunt for 4th place.
Yeah, but unfortunately they're not where Roman Abramovich wants them. I think he wants them fighting for the title, either in 1st or 2nd. He would like them to see up 3-1 against Napoli, not down 3-1. Surely he'd like to see them already moving on to the 6th round of the FA Cup, not having to have to play a replay against Birmingham. I think the threat of not making it in all those competitions is what's carrying the weight of the decision mostly. If his win percentage was better, if they didn't have to worry so much about where they will be next season and at the end of this season, I think that he will not have suffered the same fate. But again, I think it's all about the threat of what could happen.
What do you think? Please do get in touch with us. Is it the threat of what could happen that has led Chelsea to take this decision? Lots of you have been getting in touch. Amisa Morgan says the coach has instructed you what to do. As a player, you learn. Why should Lampard Drogba insult the coach? Austin T. Iowari says this is not a good decision at all. What Chelsea need is consistency. There's a need for a manager to grow with the club and build up a team over time. Gavin Wright, how about this? You can't use a donkey to run a horse race. Time to get some younger players in. Do you agree? Please do get in touch with us. We'll be back in a couple of minutes here on Sports World. Have your say. Well, amongst all this talk of the sacking of Andre Villas-Boas, you could be forgiven for forgetting there were a couple of games in the Premier League on Sunday, and Ashley Young scored twice to help Manchester United to a 3-1 win over Spurs, which sees them close the gap on Manchester City at the top of the table to just 2 points. Is that advantage United now in the title race, Michael?
It's a close one. It's going to go all the way to the wire. There's a big game between the two clubs coming up, in a couple of weeks' times, but I think with the experience Alex Ferguson's got, the big name players, Man United look like they're in the driving seat for sure.
Well, in terms of the other results, Fulham beat Wolves 5-0 and Newcastle-Sunderland finished 1-1. That's it. For the moment, we'll be looking at Andre Villas-Boas a little bit more in just a couple of minutes. You're watching Sports World. Have your say. We're reacting to that news that Andre Villas-Boas has been sacked by Chelsea. Michael, was Andre Villas-Boas the right man for the job at the start of the season?
I wouldn't have thought so. For me, he's too young. It's a big club to come to. Chelsea, are expected to be up there winning things. In the top 4. And he just didn't quite grasp it, So I thought personally that they should have appointed someone a bit more experienced and a bit more, who knows how to handle these difficult games, the big game situations.
Let's welcome Catherine to the conversation, a West Brom fan. Catherine, where do you think he went wrong?
I think the big problem was the player power at the club. The players didn't give him a chance to instil his coaching methods, to instil his style on the team. I think they obviously lost confidence in him and they didn't respect him. And you can see from their performances that the effort and the passion that you expect of a Chelsea squad just was not there. And I think I think he could have done with the board or Roman Abramovich coming out and either, really making public their support for him, which would have strengthened his position with regards to his respect, the respect the squad had for him.
Was you at the game? Was you at the game, Catherine, against Chelsea?
No, I wasn't at the game, but I followed it very closely. And I've seen West Brom play Chelsea, and they've absolutely demolished us. And they've always put in 100% committed performances. You'd never expect to see a Chelsea team play the way they did against us yesterday. And that's what was, for me, the biggest marker, that you could tell that Villas-Boas completely lost the dressing room.
How difficult is it, Michael, when a manager has lost the dressing room? Can they turn it around?
No, once the dressing room's lost, it's hard to get it back. You need the team playing for you. The last thing you want is a fragmented dressing room, especially your senior players, because those are the ones where the younger ones will look up for leadership on and off the field. So you've got to get people working for you than against you.
Well, let's have a look at what Carlo Gagnesi, the deputy editor of Goal.com, has tweeted. He says AVB is a very talented coach. It's not his fault. Chelsea's players are old, slow, past it, and the management setup is a joke. No coach could succeed. How much truth in that do you think, Catherine, there?
I think it's probably a lot of truth, actually. I mean, there's been an acknowledgement within the higher echelons of Chelsea Football Club that player power is a problem there. And they brought in Villas-Boas with the intention that he would be the one who was going to address those problems. He obviously proved that he was willing to take on the big personalities in the dressing room. The flaw has come that they just have not given him enough time to sort out those rifts, to get rid of the players that he didn't want at the club, and to build his own squad. And there are some deep-seated problems at Chelsea that employing a new manager isn't going to sort out.
Well, let's just have a listen to what Andre Villas-Boas said in his last post-match interview yesterday.
Well, I think the only place where Jose's shadow isn't looking is in Barcelona. In the rest of the world, his shadow is looking everywhere. He's one of the best managers in the world. So if you can trade a successful manager for the best manager of the world, everybody wants it, no? Well, but I think it's normal for the history that he left in this football club. I think it's a presence ever felt. It's I mean the most successful part of this club's history is related to Jose. So it's normal.
Okay, so that wasn't his last post-match interview. That was talking about the presence of Jose Mourinho around Stamford Bridge. Let's welcome Emmanuel, who's given us a call from Norway. How much do you think there was too much of an issue of Jose Mourinho? Can anybody ever live up to him?
Oh, actually, thank you for having me. I think Jose Mourinho has done quite well for Chelsea, and everybody knows that. But I think at this particular point in time, I don't think if even you can offer Jose Mourinho or a new contract in Chelsea, I'm not thinking he's going to leave and come to Stamford Bridge right now. And what I can say is that maybe he can have a saying. He don't need to come directly and coach Chelsea, but like he can maybe have a counseling for any coach that is coming to coach Chelsea right now. Because Chelsea is in a situation where every coach coming to coach Chelsea now have lose trust in themselves. Like like you come to coach a team, and in the next 6 months you are fired. So it's like everybody coming has that panic in them, and I'm not sure they are going to do any well for Chelsea if even they continue to do their job. So they will always have that skepticism that they are not going to be accepted by the team owner, for instance. So I don't think anything is going to happen in a positive direction for Chelsea right now. They need to first win the credibility of the team, from not just from the fans, but from any coach coming in. So
it's an interesting point, isn't it? We're going to be talking about that in a minute. Where next for Chelsea? Thanks for the call, Emmanuel. Austin has said this is not a good decision at all. What Chelsea need is consistency. Priya Marriott says, why does it keep happening to Chelsea? Maybe they need to build a team and not just import staff and players. Namandi Michael says it's good he's been sacked. He's not the right person for Chelsea's job. He's been giving it a lot of time already. Go AVB. Not that much time, only 257 days. But I think we can now hear what he said after that game yesterday.
He's not good enough for quite some time now, because our position in the league is 5th place, and when that is the case, that means something is wrong. And what is wrong is exactly the statistics you say. We don't win enough, so it's not numbers that makes us very, very proud. In football there is joy, there is pain, and there's another chance. So our another chance against Birmingham, and we have to do much better than this if we want to go through.
And forgive me, I think I have to ask this question.
Sure.
Will you get another chance? And is 3 wins in 12 league games good enough for the people that make those decisions?
Well, you have to ask them, not me.
Well, you don't always get another chance, Steve. Do you think AVB will be given another chance somewhere else?
Absolutely. I mean, why would you want not want that? Excuse me. Why would you not want him? You know, look what he did in Porto. You know, he won the Europa League when he was only, what, 31, 32? He has the abilities, no doubt. But what Michael said earlier, you need to have the respect in the dressing room from day one. Yeah. And I think that just was not there. I feel that if he goes to the right club, and if he gets the respect from all players, especially the senior players, without a doubt, you know, he'll succeed, absolutely.
And you've got to hand it to him. You know, he's brought in Mata, he's brought in Lukaku, he fronted up to every question that was asked. He's not done that bad a job, really.
No, absolutely not. But, you know, of course, when you play, when you manage for Chelsea, you have to be on top in every competition at all times. You know, the expectations are far greater than, you know, say, against West Brom. You know, having said that, if he goes to another team and he gets the respect of the players that he needs.
Well, let me just bring in, we can have a look at possibly the results that cost Villas-Boas his job. There were some really interesting, the QPR defeat, they were beaten 1-0, the 5-3 defeat by Arsenal, Aston Villa beat them 3-1, and then of course the Champions League 3-1, and the draw in the FA Cup against Birmingham City. Which is the biggest shock there, do you think, Michael?
Well, for me, I was at the Birmingham game, and we were going down just to enjoy the day as an ex-Birmingham City player myself. And the fact that, you know, we should have won, and right at the death there, you know, you just realise how Chelsea have crumbled as, you know, this major entity in Premier League football. It was astonishing. OK,
Michael, for now, thank you. Stay with us. We'll be talking more about Andre Villas-Boas in just a couple of minutes. You're watching Sports World, have your say. Loads of you getting in touch with us. Anna's Wiz on Twitter has said AVB sack was wrong. Old players have to go, like Lamps, Drog, Malouda. Dennis has sent us a message on at BBC Sportswire saying it was a matter of when, not if. The joke will be on Abramovich if Mourinho returns. Michael Johnson is with me in the studio here in London. Tayo is a Liverpool fan who's with us as well. And we can welcome Christine to the conversation from Canada. Christine, Roman Abramovich knew what he was getting when he took AVB on, didn't he?
Of course he did. He was nowhere near enough experience to handle players at this level. Also, he was told that the problem was getting the old players out and getting new players in, and even more so, then they required a very experienced manager, and he just wasn't experienced enough for the job. However, the problem I have is the media are now blaming the players. The media, I think, had a big role in all of this in any case. It's a question of glass houses as usual. And I wonder what you have to say about that.
Can I ask you, Christina? You say the media have all this to blame. What about, the board members? They told him, to get players out. How did this come out in public that everybody knows that he was trying to get rid of the John Terrys, the Lampard? Surely that's going to cause unrest in the change rooms and on the field.
True. But there again, they needed a much, much more experienced guy than him to do that. That was going to be a very sticky role. So many of the team were at that stage where they needed to be moved out. Well, they still need to be moved out, and new players brought in. All the more need to get an experienced manager in there.
And that goes back to my point about when they first employed him, surely they must have thought, if this is the project we need somebody a bit more experienced and knows how to handle these big players.
And you thought he had it?
No, I totally didn't think he was the right decision at all, but I'm unfortunately not the guy who's hiring him.
No, and that's the problem, isn't it, overall? I think everybody agrees on that. He is the problem, the way he does things there. And, I mean, everybody's talking about Mourinho perhaps coming back, but I don't think he'd ever do that. He'd lose face, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think it would be a bit of an embarrassing situation for Abramovich to go back and employ somebody that he sacked a few years ago.
There's a lot of people tweeting for the return of Jose Mourinho. Kazim707 says the owner should beg Jose Mourinho to return. Who else? Yeah, Dennis says the joke will be on Abramovich if Mourinho returns. But Paul Johnson has said on Facebook, Mr. A has no patience and fails to remember how Sir Alex Ferguson got to be the great manager he is. That's despite a rocky start at Manchester United. Tayo, what do you think?
Yeah, it was a difficult situation for Andre Villas-Boas. I do think, though, that like other contributors have said today, that they should have realised that if you're going to appoint AVB, then he should be given enough time too. I don't, there's, as Catherine has suggested, there's a lot of problems in that locker room, and to just get rid of him like that, I think, was quite unfair.
Sporting Tell has tweeted, Ranieri, Mourinho, Grant, Scolari, Hiddink, Ancelotti, AVB. To lose one manager is unfortunate, Roman. To lose 7 smacks of carelessness. And I suppose you do have to start asking the question, will managers start thinking they don't want to be heading to Stamford Bridge? Michael?
It is a difficult one, you've just said it. I think it's something like 8 managers in the last 9 years. It's an embarrassing situation for a club that is potentially one of the biggest around in world football. Now, they've got to get it right. And hopefully now they'll appoint somebody after the season's finished, and let's go forward with that.
Etim Okun has sent us a message on Facebook. This is not the solution, Mr. Abramovich. In fact, you are the cause of the Chelsea problems. David Turner, as a Manchester City fan, it's that mad Russian owner that should go. The old guard should go as well. Steve, how much do you blame Abramovich?
I mean, it seems that ever since Mourinho left, he's had the utmost standards and expectations for the club, and as soon as he felt that the team wasn't going to live up to that, that wasn't enough. It seems like he needs the satisfaction of winning right away. He can't wait, and I guess his only solution is to fire his manager and on to the next one. And obviously that hasn't really worked that well. And I think it's unfortunate, really, in AVB's case, because like Michael said, when he first came in, everybody was worrying if he was inexperienced, and they were saying that he wasn't ready. Well, if he wasn't ready, then why would you hire him in the first place?
Exactly. And you know what? Listen, AVB will come back. He's young, he's enthusiastic, he's got some great ideas, but they just didn't have the time to let him see through this project.
No, absolutely not. I mean, someone said that it was a waste of resources, and I don't agree with that, because look who he brought in. He brought in Mata, he brought in Lukaku, who are great players, and when given the time to develop, they'll be like the senior players that Chelsea has today. But unfortunately, it just didn't end out that way.
Catherine, would you want Roman Abramovich owning your club?
Mind having some of his money at my club, but I think there is something in that. I mean, you know, he's not a football man. I'm more worried about the people that are advising Roman Abramovich, because I'm sure he's not the only person making these decisions. But surely someone at Chelsea has got to see that there's a trend here. They're hiring these managers who are coming in with really good reputations, and they've had experienced managers. They've tried something new this time. You know, you've got to start to realise that actually replacing the manager all the time isn't the problem. Now, Abramovich, you know, he has got the money and he's put a lot of his own money into that club. So, you know, you've got to say that he's got the right to make those kind of decisions. But at the same time, he paid £30 million to get Andre Villas-Boas to Chelsea this summer. Now, that's a big investment for a football club, and you would have thought that he would have given him at least a few seasons to try and bring some return on that investment.
And Catherine, you're spot on, and I think a vital cog was Ray Wilkins, because he had the experience, he knew the English league, and somebody like AVB could have lent on him for vital decisions, and they got rid of him.
Well, one man who he did have there was Roberto Di Matteo, who's now been given the job until the end of the season. The whole 12 yards has tweeted, if a team wants an impetus, something to push them, they need a new manager, not an assistant that has the same ideas. But Catherine, you'd know him quite well. What's your opinion?
Yeah. Well, you know, as you know, he was manager of West Brom, and the problem is they hired AVB, and he was an inexperienced manager in the Premier League. And what they could have done and what they should have done was hire an experienced assistant manager alongside him. They didn't do that. They got Roberto Di Matteo, who has got limited experience. Now, from what I've heard, he's even less popular in the Chelsea dressing room than Villas-Boas. And, you know, sacking Villas-Boas at this stage of the season, citing results as not being good enough, and then just bringing in his assistant, I think is a very strange decision from Chelsea. You would have thought that if they were really focusing on this season, they would have paid money to hire somebody else right now. The fact that they seem to have given up on this season does make me question the wisdom of sacking Villas-Boas. And Di Matteo, you know, he's probably got great potential as a manager in the future, but I can't see him being successful at Chelsea in the short term.
Will Admis Bentley has said on Facebook, ha, 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 Di Matteo until the end of the season, no Champions League for Chelsea. Steve, who would you rather have, Di Matteo or AVB at this point?
Can I go with neither?
OK, so at that point, we will ask you, who would you like to see take the job long term?
Honestly, I would like to see Bruce Hidden come back. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he was the only manager since Mourinho to leave on his own. I think that he has a lot of potential still, and I think that he can gather the respect of the players that he once had a few years ago, and I think that he can take them far.
Well, Jose Mourinho has been talked about a lot this week, spotted in London house hunting, and he was being questioned by Spanish journalists about his trip.
Look, I don't have to give explanations about my private life to anyone, but due to respect to my club and because I asked the players to do exactly the same, when one of us leaves Madrid, we inform the club out of respect and courtesy. I hadn't left Madrid in a long time. I left on the last day off I had. I informed who I needed to inform, the president and the general director, and I don't think I have to ask your permission.
OK, well, at this point, let's welcome David Williams from Ladbrokes. Willow, who's in the hot seat as far as you're concerned next season?
Well, fascinating listening to some of those names. Jose Mourinho there. He is the guy, we've had this market open. As soon as the news broke, he is the guy that the early money has come from. Amongst the punters worldwide, it's Jose Mourinho who seemingly they want. He isn't favourite, however. Rafa Benitez, a name that might come as a bit of a surprise to many viewers. He is the favourite in there at 6-4. And you know when it comes to Abramovich, he is going to be prepared to break the bank for whoever he wants. He was prepared to do it, 15 million euros to get AVB. Whatever the man cost that he wants, he will fork it out. It seems that the punters want Mourinho to return, but the bookmakers, certainly here in London, we think Rafa Benitez is in pole position.
Interesting. Arnab says, I think no manager can manage Chelsea because they give them no time to any manager, let alone AVB. Annie says, sacking our coach at this time shows a high level of inconsistency. Any odds, Willow, on what will come first? Abramovich leaving Chelsea or them winning the Champions League, maybe?
We never miss an opportunity. It's all been priced up, yeah. I mean, the way we view it is that the first thing that will happen is Roman Abramovich will wave goodbye to Chelsea Football Club. That will happen before Chelsea actually win the Champions League. It's 2-5, heavily odds on, that Abramovich has to go before Chelsea put in the structure and the long-term project that will deliver European success, which of course is the one thing that's missing from a really ambitious club. That is a massive turnaround within the past 2 or 3 years when we were very heavily odds on that Roman Abramovich would bring European success to Chelsea. It doesn't look likely now. The more we see of this absolute circus that's going on at Chelsea, the more we think that there has to be change, not with the manager, but with the actual owner.
Steve, Champions League success unlikely at the circus that is Chelsea. What do you make of that?
I would love to get in touch with David there because I think I'd put a lot of money on the opposite. I really think that they'll win it before Abramovich leaves.
Well, I mean, the big question is, I mean, another market, Steve, that you might be interested in is what will the next manager? So there's going to be an appointment made in the summer. What will he or she deliver when they come into the job?
Have you put my name forward there?
Amanda, you're in there at 250 to 1. Alongside Michael here, you're the same price. But Steve's a little bit shorter. He's at 66 to 1. I mean, the point is, it's still odds against that whoever comes in will win any of the major silverware. The Premier League, it's 6-4, so it's odds against. That means less than a 50% chance of it happening that the new manager delivers Premier League success, and an even bigger price, 5-2, that the new manager delivers Champions League success. The reason why we're prepared to offer those odds, tempting as they are, is because the new manager may have, as we've already seen, little more than a season to deliver immediate success. It doesn't seem any kind of a structure that the really top European clubs seem to have in place to deliver long-term silverware.
OK, that is where we're going to take a pause. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. What do you think about what you've heard? Where would you put your money? If you're watching Sports World, have your say. We're talking about Chelsea and what next after the sacking of Andre Villas-Boas. Michael, who do you think should get the job?
I think Mourinho should get the job. I think it would be emotional. I think football love him. We in England adore him, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for the job. Really do.
Let's welcome Mosey, a Chelsea fan from Nigeria, on the phone. Who do you want to see at Stamford Bridge next season?
Well, I think if Fabio Capello is around or is available, then he can take over. But we have better options like Mourinho or Pep Guardiola, then that would be a better option for us.
Pep Guardiola is an interesting one. Willow, what are the odds on Guardiola?
Yeah, he's the second favourite, Amanda, at the moment. He's in there at 5-1. He's got more of a chance, according to our view of events, than the part-time manager or the assistant who stepped in, Di Matteo. He's in there at 6-1. Pep Guardiola, they would presumably have to break the bank to get him. But as we say, Abramovich is prepared to do that. Money is seemingly no object whatsoever. So Pep Guardiola, round about the similar price to Jose Mourinho. They are the blockbuster names, and that is what Chelsea fans want. I don't think that the current favourite in the betting, Rafa Benitez, will excite that many Chelsea fans.
Teo, as a Liverpool fan, what would you think of Benitez heading to Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, it'll be a strange one. It'll be a strange one from like a Liverpool fan's perspective. I think Rafa's a really good coach, though. Big fan of his. It's kind of sad to see him go when you see all the turmoil he had to deal with when he was at Liverpool. But yeah, if I'm honest, though, from speaking to a lot of Chelsea fans, there doesn't seem to be that much excitement or enthusiasm about Rafa becoming their next manager.
Elvis has sent us a message on Facebook saying we need a club legend like Gianfranco Zola to take over. Please sell Drogba, Torres, Bosingwa and Malouda. Michael, do you think there is something in that, in a legend? Would they be able to get these older players, this core, in check?
Absolutely, because straight away they get the respect for the dressing room, they get the respect of the fans. What I would say, if it's somebody who's, pretty young, a Zola or a John Terry, they need somebody who's an older statesman alongside them so they can lean on them.
And there's some suggestion, Willow, I think that John Terry might be in line to be the next manager. Yeah, it's extraordinary. We're offering 33-1 that he combines the player-manager role. I think a lot has been said about the influence of the senior players within the dressing room. Some of it a good influence and some, clearly, if you read the newspapers, a very destructive influence. But, did the players become bigger than AVB? Well, certainly that is a suggestion that's getting a lot of credence. For that reason, John Terry, and what's interesting is he's had the opportunity to talk about it in the past 24 hours. He has not ruled it out. Personally, I can't see it, but there's a price for everything. As Michael says, it brings with it it's a double-edged sword. Yes, they will command the respect, but you think about John Terry, one of the big things that AVB has been criticised for is a lack of experience. Well, John Terry's still playing football, so for me that doesn't quite marry up. Well, the former England goalkeeper David James has actually been talking about what a Chelsea manager needs to stay in the job.
Criteria for Chelsea since Mourinho, quite simply, is to win titles, qualify for Champions League and expect to go and win the Champions League. What's interesting is that John Terry's in the frame there for manager of Chelsea.
You know him? You've seen managerial?
Well, I'm surprised he wasn't in the frame for the England job.
Said with a smile, I think there. Right, just before we go, we've got to talk, how will AVB be remembered? What will his contribution to English football be? Jim Shelley, a journalist for the Mirror newspaper, has tweeted, the fact is AVB's principal innovation, squatting on the touchline, never really took off. Michael, how will you remember him?
Oh, it's tickled me. I just remember him being somebody who's spoken about this new character with new ideas, and it didn't quite materialise for him.
Catherine, what will you remember AVB from the Premier League as?
Yeah, I think he's a squatting position in his nice little trench coat. But was a bit of a winner. But he'll be back in the Premier League. I think this won't be the last we see of him, and I hope that he will be a success in his future career.
Steve, do you think he's made any lasting impact at Chelsea?
I don't know. I mean, I think the players, rather the fans, definitely liked him. That was evident when they weren't doing well, and they were still cheering for him. I think the thing that I'm going to remember most was his hair. He always had nice hair.
He did.
That'll be my lasting memory. But of course, I wish him, the utmost success. What he does next. Without a doubt, he'll be coming back somewhere.
Michael, you can just shake your head at that one.
It's interesting because, he's a young coach, a young guy, and all we remember him for is his squat, his hair, his coat, nothing to do with his coaching or his tactics, which is, pretty much of a shame, really.
OK, Michael, thanks for now. Dairu's tweeted, if there's anybody that needs to be sacked, it should be Roman Abramovich. Why grow up? Has said Terry must go. For Mourinho to be back, Roman has to agree he was wrong. Benitez would be a step backwards. This one's going to run and run. Thank you all for your contributions over the last hour or so. And we'll see you same time, same place next week on Sports World. Have your say. Goodbye.